Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Student to Life podcast, where learning and unlearning has no limits. I'm your host, Stretch, and today we have a very, very, very special guest. We were having conversations before, so I know we're going to have a great episode. We have Pastor Gerly Jermaine in the building. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for you watching this program, because this is amazing. Student of Life is, that's all we are as human beings, right?
I mean, you probably kicked it off with the first question I was going to ask, because I was going to ask, when you hear that name, Student to Life, what pops in your head, like the meaning of that?
Gosh, this is wisdom, because the life is a school. From the moment we're born, we're absorbing from our observation, from what we hear, what we see, what we taste, what we smell. And because the universe is mental, what we can think the moment we are conscious.
Mm-hmm.
So life is the greatest school, and Student of Life, I love this. I have to say kudos to you and your crew and all the people with you. This is amazing.
I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to need that. That is like one of the best meetings we've had since we've been asked. I ask all the guests. Every guest gets that question. So that is probably one of the best ones.
Well, I'm honored.
So tell us, before we go any further, tell us a little bit about your credentials, like, what you do.
I studied theology in my undergrad in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
It's Jamaica for many reasons, of course. Bob Marley marked my life. People don't understand this, and I don't want to confuse religion with truth, because truth is universal. Nobody owns truth.
Nobody.
And Bob, from I was younger, learning English, because I'm from Haiti. First of all, let me say this part.
Right.
I'm from Haiti. My name is really pronounced in French is Gerly Jermaine.
Mm-hmm.
It's too complicated. So Bob Marley's song, Redemption Song resonated so much with me. And of course, being Haitian, the whole idea against slavery, about freedom, about being emancipated from mental slavery. That section, that is my life.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people are under the bondage of mental slavery to this very day, even in free countries.
Right.
So undergrad in theology, then I did communication, human resource development, started my PhD in organizational development, and then a few personal tragedies, and I dropped out. No regrets, not telling people not to finish school, but pastored for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And now I am a healthcare administrator. So
Healthcare.
yeah,
Okay.
interesting twist, right?
Yeah.
But we'll break it down later.
So yeah, you touched on it a little bit before we get to like the Christianity aspect of it and all that. You touched on it a little bit, where there's things going on in Haiti where we know from the beginning of time that Haiti was one of the most revolutionary countries in the world when it came to fighting for our rights and slavery and stuff like that, and what's going on now. I think a lot of people don't understand that it's still going on. I personally don't have a full understanding, because at first I thought that the gangs that's taking over is a bad thing, but some people are telling me that it's not really all that bad, because they're fighting for rights that they were denied. But we remember back to slavery, where Haitians were fighting for rights and revolution that they didn't have a plan for after that revolution ended.
Correct. So now, I don't know how much time you have, but allow me to give you this brief history, because this is going to be a condensed, not my perspective, but the Haitian perspective, as well as now the French perspective, and the American perspective. And I'm using these countries for a specific reason. First of all, you have these natives, the Tainos, the Arawaks, who are in the land. This guy named Columbus supposedly discovered it, but he didn't discover it. People were there already, so he stumbled upon it.
Yes.
And then in order to get the gold, because Haiti had so much gold, so he came with different ways to get the natives to work. Then the slave trade started with the Portuguese, the Spaniards, the French, most of Europe then. And many of the French influence with the Black Jacobins and the French Revolution was very prevalent in Haiti. Then Louverture, Toussaint Louverture, became the first governor general. He was a house slave, but educated with the French system, and Haiti became a French colony that Haitians would control, but with the mulattoes, the whites, three groups of people, the whites, the mulattoes, which were mixed, Haitians and blacks, and then the blacks. So they would work together towards it. Toussaint Louverture was very dark, but many of the darker ones thought he betrayed the country because when Haiti first in 1793 was independent,
Okay.
but it wasn't like a big deal because the slaves still had to work. But when the Haiti became independent, they didn't like it because they thought being independent meant I don't have to work anymore.
Right.
I need to sit down on my plantation and have other people bring me my lemonade and pina colada. But Louverture said, no, you need to go back to work. So within his own camp, they went against him. Then he went to France supposedly for a meeting to meet with Napoleon, and never met with Napoleon, was arrested, died in prison. So now the rest of the army, second in command Jean-Jacques Dessalines, that's his name, thought that this was a complete betrayal from the French. And he came up with this slogan in Creole, says, coupe tête boule caille, mean cutting off your heads and burn your houses.
Okay.
Then they had this guy. This is absolute truth that you may not hear it everywhere else, but you will understand what's happening to Haiti. Bois Tonnerre. So if that's his real name, but it would be like Lightning Roundtree, if I had to translate his name. And this is, I quote, we need a white man's skin for parchment, his blood for ink, and a sword for the pen.
Okay.
I'm paraphrasing it. That's when they slaughtered most of the French, the whites. Haiti became independent that way.
Okay.
Now, a slave country with many blacks, you're killing whites. Racism is real. I'm not talking about modern day America only. Racism was even worse in the 1800s. So the French came back because Napoleon lost battle in Waterloo against the British. So a lot was happening during that time. And he asked for the Haitians, you want the land? Because that's what it means when you occupy a land. When you colonize a land, it belongs to the country. If you want this land, you need to pay for it. And Haiti had to pay for it. But paying for it to the French then, and I'm backtracking with a lot of what was happening, the influences, Haiti was a bad example for the other colonies in the Caribbean.
Right.
And in Africa. So you can't be black and you are killing whites in the 1800s and you get away with it. Then Haiti started helping Brazil, Colombia, Panama, Venezuela, Bolivia to be independent. And I'm trying to remember which country in Africa, Senghor's country, I can't remember which one, Senegal. So you a bad example. Then we gotta set the example. So now Citibank, the beautiful Citibank, purchased the debt against the French, and the United States now became the country Citibank that Haiti had to pay. When Haiti was defaulting on its loan, 1915, Marines from Georgia, and I want everybody to understand this. Why Georgia? 1915, time of John Crow's laws and the KKK.
Right.
And then you have these Marines going to a black country, trying to get all the gold reserve that Haiti had in their banks was taken so that, in order for them to get the money back. And Haiti's relationship with the United States has always been great. Helping the U.S. with the Revolutionary Wars. Haitians were part of the Tuskegee Airmen.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. if you go to Savannah, Georgia, you'll see a statue of Haitians who came to help fight against the British when the U.S. became independent. Louisiana is talked a lot. Jean-Baptiste Pointe-du-Sable, Haitian guy who built the city of Chicago. So Haitian influence in the U.S. is big.
Yeah.
I'm gonna insert this for anybody who is ignorant enough, uneducated enough to say that Haitians come to the U.S. to destroy cities when we've contributed from even the U.S. became independent to this very day that we eat the dogs and the cats and the geese. How dare you, man, being that ignorant?
Right.
And anybody who believes in that madness. And then people eat dogs, but not Haitians. Talk to them who eat dogs. But anyway. So that's what happened in Haiti. Now, current time. When communism was a big influence in the Caribbean, Cuba with Castro,
Right.
then the U.S., the second largest island after Cuba, is Hispaniola. The U.S. needed to ensure that not all countries were being influenced with communism. So then Papa Doc, François Duvalier, was the guy somewhat supported by the United States, but had his own mind. But his dictatorship was winked at because as long as he remained in power, because he was anti-communist. So it was good for capitalism.
Right.
Then his son didn't understand the policies well because he was too young, 18, and you get all this power and all this money. Unfortunately, he missed it. And Haiti was literally the pearl of the Caribbean. I remember when I was born, even in the 70s, I'm giving away when I was born. But it was among the safest countries in the world. You lose your wallet, I promise you, no one would pick it up because they knew that there's punishment for taking what's not yours.
Right.
It was a place when we had carnivals. I remember one time, I didn't even know about rock and roll too well. We were exposed to music, but I heard that Guns N' Roses, those guys, they were in Haiti for carnival because it was a safe place and Haitians didn't have a celebrity crush. So it was okay to be there and be
just walk
nobody.
around. Yeah.
The Clintons honeymooned in Haiti. You know, it was the place to be. And then Aristide became president with the revolution happened with, the rich and the poor. Could have united the country. Didn't do that.
Right.
And then that was the beginning of chaos.
And that's why we're in the situation we're in right now.
The country right now, I don't know it.
Right.
I didn't grow up in it. It's foreign to me. But I understand it. Now, you mentioned the gangs. It's a very convoluted situation where the gangs came, where the weapons came. Supposedly it's a poor country. How do you have so much weapons? Weapons cost money.
You're right.
A lot of them came from Colombia. Most of the weapons came from the United States. Who is funneling all this money?
Right.
Haiti has billionaires. I mean, yeah, billionaires. We have a guy who's worth over $8 billion. That's what's legal. Then you have those who are illegal. I'm not talking about the Pablo Escobars of Haiti, but they do exist. So
I don't think it's talked about enough.
It's that dichotomy. But it's a beautiful island. It's full of mountains, beautiful beaches. Unfortunately, the poverty is what people see. But the sweetest coconuts, the best sugar canes. I mean,
So even with everything going on there now, you still could go there to vacation on the good side of Haiti.
yes, the main chaos is in Port-au-Prince. The north side, Cap Haitian, when they stopped flying into supposedly Haiti, it was just Port-au-Prince.
Okay.
Planes were still going to Cap Haitian. They still happen. The insecurity is not as much in Cap Haitian and the other sides of the country.
Right.
So it's not so bad. I don't want to stay on Haiti because that's not what I get. But it's.
I mean,
my homeland, that's my passion, and it hurts. It does hurt to see.
It's useful information for us because I feel like a lot of people don't know the real history. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We learned about it in school from the Dutty Bookman story.
Correct.
That's how we
The Jamaican dude
Yes, that came to Haiti.
who went to Haiti. This is another sad story. The So the misinformation is that Dirty Bookman brought voodoo.
Right.
But if you Google the prayer of Bookman, just Google it, his prayer, it's to the God of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So misinformation, ignorance is a lot of what's happening. And again, what was called voodoo then was just a natural medicine. And they believed that there was a dichotomy between the God of the whites
Mm-hmm.
and then the God of the blacks. That's another time for me to come here, but that's not what we're going to talk about today.
You touched on the voodoo topic. I think those are African practices that we don't embrace. We don't embrace it because it was demonized, and voodoo was never meant to be that. So
Voodoo was never meant to be that. The cultural aspect of it, I do understand. The religious aspect of it, I have to say, I've read about it, but I've never been to what they call a peristyle or voodoo ceremony. I don't know about it. I was raised Christian. I am still believing in Christ. So I don't know much. I don't want to talk about something I don't know
right.
about.
So let's touch on the
What I may know about.
yes, which is Christianity, right?
What I may know about.
So Christianity now, we know that when I was going to Sunday school, actually, is my first introduction to Christ and the story of Christ, and we learned about. I didn't know the specifics. We only know the basics. Like he was born on Christmas and he died in Easter. That was our basic knowledge of it. So, what is your breakdown when it comes to Christianity? Like the story of it and why it became the religion it is right now.
Many reasons. First of all, Jesus didn't introduce Christianity. I know this, well, for so many people, this is going to sound shocking. He was a Jew. He wasn't born on Christmas Day either. That came because the Romans wanted to popularize it. So Christianity became popularized because the Romans popularized it, because they realized that the followers of the Way, as it was called first, were gaining popularity, and Nero's economy was crashing in Rome, and he burned the city, blaming the Christians. But Jesus was a Jew, followed Judaism, but modified Judaism. A lot of the practices he didn't follow, being the Messiah. And then Paul, the Apostle Paul from the Bible, is the real guy who started Christianity. Now, the Roman Catholic Church, before I mention that, Rome in general, historically, made it their religion. Commercialized it. Constantine, the emperor, made it a national religion, but brought in his own former religion to mix with what the Way was, as Christianity became from 321 AD. So the version of Christianity that started in the 4th century is more a mixture of paganism, Roman paganism, and Pauline Christ teachings.
Okay.
So we grew up this Christmas thing, for example. Jesus wasn't born in December because the historical account of his birth, with shepherds being outside with angels during December months in the Middle East, does not really happen, because shepherds are not outside with their sheep in December, especially at the end of December. So
now we
you can see where I'm going.
Yeah, I definitely.
So it begins on some false pretenses.
So now we go back to the Bible now, where a lot of these stories are told in the Bible, and we see where the Bible went from the original Bible with the manuscripts and the tablets that they wrote on, to King James changing it to what he wanted it to be, and the Old Testament and New Testament, the King James version. Why that transition? Why change it? Now we're thinking it's man-made? It's man-written because it's not words of God anymore. Now it's King James words.
Right. Now, the Ethiopian Bible, I don't know how many of you have heard about it.
Yes.
So far, it's the closest of what we can say is the original manuscripts. So when things were written in papyrus, I'm sorry, wrong English term, um, they were there being transmitted into different papyrus and documents. When Christianity started, the church priests were the only ones who could have a copy of the Bible. It was first translated from before the priests. It was translated the Old Testament in Hebrew and Aramaic, and some a little bit of Akkadian, and then the New Testament in Greek and Koine Greek. Then it was translated in Greek called the Septuagint. The 70 elders who translated it. This was carried over because of Greek influence, the Hellenistic influence into the area of the Middle East. And then we had a translation into Latin with the Roman influence, the Latin Vulgate. And from the Latin, Johann Gutenberg came with the printing press in the 1400s. And King James wanted to come out of the Catholic Church, like you say, had his own version done, somewhat close to the original manuscript, but with some adjustments. But what is the Word of God? And if I can say this one, because it's gonna be interesting to explain this. When God gives a vision, for example, God speaks to you,
Right.
Stretch. God speaks to me. My biases are not gone. Yours are not gone.
Right.
Our background is part of it. So whenever I write what God gives me, I'm going to give you an example. The Apostle John had visions in the book of Revelation. He sees beasts and dragons. Picture you went to Greece. So you can even understand this. You're on an island. Well, we're islanders here. There's nobody there. Absolutely no one.
Right.
You exiled by yourself. You're seeing lizards, and you're watching the ocean every day. You're not eating well. I'm not saying he's hallucinating, but when he has a vision of an animal, of a beast coming out of the sea, because that's all he can come out of, because that's his historical framework or environmental framework, even though the vision is from God, but the interpretation comes from his context.
Right.
And then he sees a dragon with fire. An airplane with a bomb? Because John had no idea of what an airplane is. So he's going to say that's an eagle with iron and brass and silver. So you have to, when you're reading it, some visions are not literal, and people have to get the context, because the Bible uses imageries. Some stories are literally stories, some are imageries, some are poetic,
Right.
and some are historical.
The poetic side of it, I think a lot of people miss,
Oh gosh.
Especially some pastors, they really miss that completely.
Oh gosh. That's why there's a lack of love, man.
What I want to ask you about, right? I'm gonna say competition, the contrast with science and religion, where they talked about the Anunnaki people that built the pyramids and they enslaved humans, and they were the original creators of the human race. So
Right.
that's what the Anunnaki, they believe that they built the pyramids and all that. What do you think about that? It's not Adam and Eve type of thing.
Well, first of all, there is no dichotomy between science and religion. And anybody who would want to create that is out of ignorance. I'm going to use the Galileo story. The Bible talks about, four corners of the earth. But the Bible also talks about God sits in the circumference of the earth. So who literally said the four corners? John in a vision said the four corners, Gog and Magog, because there's going to be a battle, the Armageddon battle. But in the book of Isaiah, God sits in the circumference of the earth. You can't have corners and you have circumference. Make up your mind. Which one is it?
Right.
So as we understand context, if I'm talking about there's going to be a war and it's going to be everywhere, context. So four corners is applied in that context. Do not take that literally to mean the earth is square. But if it sits in a circumference of the earth, anything that has a circumference is round.
Yes.
So there is no dichotomy between science and the Bible. Another example, we learn about astronomy a lot from the Bible. The book of Job talks about the Pleiades, a lot of the constellations, how the sun rotates. The lunar cycle is biblical and that's scientific. The solar cycle is biblical and that's scientific. It's just that fanatics who do not interpret the Bible properly
Yes.
want to create a dichotomy with science and the Bible. Truth is constant. We discover it progressively. Science is explaining reality. That's what science is.
Right.
Well, truth is reality. So how can there be a dichotomy with
Right.
it?
So you think the Anunnaki story is real?
All right, now let me break this down this is my perspective. Picture an elephant, and we are, well, people, you may not see how many of us are in the studio, but let's imagine it's 5 of us here in the studio, or 6 of us in the studio. Picture an elephant, and all 6 of us are blind. And we have to figure out what's an elephant. Somebody touches the tusk and says the elephant is a tusk. Somebody touches the trunk, says the elephant is a trunk. Somebody touches the tail and says the elephant is a tail. But what is the elephant? The guy who touches the tusk, he's partially right. So is the one with the trunk. So is the one with the tail. But if we put all of our understanding together, we get a better picture of the elephant. So how the universe came to be, we all are blind to it. And we are trying to figure it out from our different perspectives.
True.
So I'm not going to knock out the Anunnaki. And I found out that what we call the Anunnaki, the Book of Enoch call it the Watchers.
Yeah, that's it. That's the book we're referring to.
Right.
Right.
And then, well, the Emerald Book of Thoth call it the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
The Book of Enoch call it the Watchers. We have angels in the Bible. So it depends on where you stand to see this elephant.
Yeah, because
And how you call the elephant.
right, because there's some people that refers the Anunnaki in the Bible. That said they're actually in the Bible itself.
Let me give you one that is not Christianly acceptable. The Bible says Enoch walked with God and he was no more. Many have interpreted it that he went to heaven. But did it say that?
No, it did not. So do you think that
I'm not saying he didn't go to heaven. I'm just saying did it say
did
that?
it say that? Right. So do you think, using the elephant analogy, right? Do you think that is why we have the church so divided now? As far as you have the Seventh-day Adventists, you have the Catholic, you have the
Jehovah's Witness, Mormons, Baptists, Pentecostal, Methodist, all the East.
right. So everybody has their interpretation of it, the
How do you have one book and you have all these different views?
That is my
and
question.
It's one book because we are all blind trying to figure out what's the elephant. And I think we should be more open-minded and trying to understand it together. Because who owns the truth? Can anyone own truth?
No. The truth is the truth.
Is truth.
Yeah.
We are discovering truth. I wish, we could be able to, like you and I, we and everybody else listening to this, we could be student of life.
Yes, and I think understanding different perspectives, and also now people are talking about my truth. Now, this the truth.
Or alternate facts.
Exactly. There's the truth, and then there's everybody else's version of the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One of the things I want to ask you about too is, because I actually want to know this too. I had this question, and every time I question these things, pastors look at you like it's blasphemy. Like,
Oh, wow.
I don't know why you can't
I hope I
question
can answer
certain
this
things.
one.
So we say that Jesus is the Son of God, right? And God sent Jesus to die for our sins, right? So we also say God is a jealous God. But then a lot of people praise Jesus more than they actually
Oh, my
praise
friend,
God.
I like this question. Keep
So
going.
that's what I don't understand. How does that come about where Jesus is now the one that's being held on the pedestal and God is like taking the back seat in a way? To me, that's what it seems like.
So, what you say, I became aware of it as I pastored, and I would have people pray, and they would say, "Dear Jesus," and I would question, because when the disciples asked Jesus, teach us how to pray. He said, our Father.
Yes.
So, and then he says, when you pray, ask the Father. So then I don't understand how people pray to Jesus. And then he says, pray in my name, but you ask the Father. So
if you're ever in South Florida on a Friday night, come through to Seduce Friday nights in South Florida in Lauderdale Lakes at Bliss Nightclub each and every Friday night. We got a diverse music for you. We got hip hop, dancehall, Afrobeat, reggae. We got everything for you. Soca, you name it, we have it. On a Friday night at Bliss Nightclub. We start at 11 a.m. Gets up at 11. Usually, ladies are free before 12:30 with RSVP. So go to Seduce Friday Nights on Instagram. Hit the link and go RSVP for the ladies. All right. Also, on a Friday nights, right, the ladies come out in their numbers. So, fellas, if you want to find you a new one, that is where you need to be at. Seduce Friday Nights each and every Friday, Bliss Nightclub. I'll see you there.
you have hit the nail on its head. I pray to the Father.
Right.
I do not say people shouldn't pray to Jesus, but I follow Jesus' example. He said, this is how you are supposed to pray. You pray to the Father.
So that, like I said, I've always been confused about that. And
it's in the Bible,
right.
man.
I feel like God basically, yes, God sent a Messiah, but I don't think the Messiah is supposed to be praised. You know, you refer to the Messiah as bringing the message and the consciousness that you desired at the time.
Correct.
And that's what you refer to when you talk to God. Like, God, your Messiah told us that this is the way.
Correct.
So I go to church and Jesus is the only thing I hear being talked about, you know. And we know that there's a supreme being that's higher than all of that.
You see what you say? It has bothered me a lot. Now, the other side to the story is the doctrine of the Trinity, that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost are all equal, and there are people who pray to the Spirit. God is Spirit; we worship Him in spirit and in truth. But I do believe there is a separation in person and function.
Right.
And the Father is the Father. I do believe that 100%. The Father did not walk on earth, even though Jesus says, if you see the Father, you see me. There is a context to it because the Father can't die. Let me say this again. The Father can't die. The Father can't suffer that somebody slaps him. The Roman soldier can slap him. So if Jesus became man, the Father never became man. So I want us to put clarity and context. When we talk about the Trinity, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, they are all one.
And the understanding I got from Jesus dying on the cross for our sins is he had to do that to basically sacrifice himself to show that there is a higher power, higher being.
Correct.
Showing that there's proof. This is a proof. Like, it's just like now you would go somewhere and present a shock value,
right?
So everybody could see that you're going viral,
right? And
then now when you go viral, you can say, okay, this is my proof, so everybody can see that this is the real way and the truth.
Correct.
That is how I saw it.
And then when he died, he said, "Father, into your hand I commit my spirit."
Right.
I'm committing my own spirit into my hand.
So that's my confusion about that.
Please do not be confused. The Bible is straightforward. This is one of the biggest problems with religion. I got to bring this up because we use a lot of our theories and nobody fact checks the Bible itself because the Bible stands alone. It's its own testimony. Jesus never prayed to himself. Why we?
We agree on that. One of the questions I want to ask you, and I think I know your answer, but I want to ask you because it's facts. I feel like in slavery, we were presented this religion in slavery, and there's a lot of misconceptions about the actual religion of Christianity. The white man brought it in his version. A lot of us went and found the original version. They presented Jesus to us as a white man.
Yeah, they lied to us. His name is Borgias. That's his name. I forgot his first name. The Italian guy that Leonardo da Vinci painted. That's his friend's son. That they gave us a blue-eyed, blonde-haired dude that doesn't represent a Middle Eastern person
Right.
before, anyway. But here's the other version of it. You read the Bible about worship, about music, and about tambourines, about cymbals, about dancing. Worship, David.
Right.
And then you go to church and it's country music. And they tell you that's the sacred music. Country music didn't exist during Bible time.
Right.
So,
We're gonna touch on the hypocrisy of when it comes to church a lot.
but that's the
Yeah.
culture, that's the Anglo-Saxon influence into Christianity. And people think it's biblical. It is not biblical. It's Anglo-Saxon cultural influence.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the Bible. The Bible answers itself.
The part of the hypocrisy that we've seen in church. We're in Jamaica, so in Jamaica, it's like they have a whole nother idea of the practices of Christianity because they don't listen to secular music. That's one. When it comes to friendships and relationships and sex and marriage and all these things, their opinions are just closed off from the real world. Like we had a pastor on, like I was telling you before, and he was talking about oral sex. He was talking about Songs of Solomon, the different positions that's in Songs of Solomon, the romance. And there's a lot of people who were so mad at that,
Yeah.
And he talked about the music, like listening to soul and love and reggae, and and we go back home and if you hear the elders, they say, that's not Christian like, that is a sin to listen to certain things or to do certain things or to talk about it. And in their own lives, I feel like a lot of them are living that life behind closed doors. Like you said, they would leave if you were a carpenter, if you were a teacher, you leave that outside of the church and you come in to act like you're a perfect person, and you pick that up on the way out to go back and live your so-called perfect life.
Unfortunately. So now on this one, first of all, the Bible is not PG-13. It's very R-rated. I'll give you an example. David cut off the head of Goliath.
Yes.
That is not a story you tell kids.
No.
I mean, you cut off somebody's head at 16. That's gory. That's,
even in Revelation, if you think
that's
about
even going there. That's Game of Thrones stuff. That's Spartacus. And, yeah. So, Song of Solomon, you can't really preach Songs of Solomon in front of children because you have a guy telling you, there's masturbation in Songs of Solomon. I know I'm going to shock a lot of you. And you may not like me after this, but it's okay. The truth is the truth. It's not about liking. There is oral sex in Songs of Solomon. There's a lot of caresses and kisses and touching breast a lot. You can't preach about it because of the audience. And I understand that contextually.
Yes.
Which is why seminars should be done at church for couples to explain certain things. Now, when it comes to what you do in your bedroom, this is between you and your significant other.
True.
As long as you guys are comfortable with it, you do what you're comfortable with. Is there a line of demarcation? Who am I to tell you this part?
Right.
Because I can't tell you. I heard a story of a guy who said his mouth, the mouth that he has praising God cannot be the same mouth, kissing his wife's flower. I'm like, dude, then brush your teeth, Use mouthwash. I'm just saying. And then down there shouldn't be that dirty. If it's that dirty, run. Nothing should go there, So, it's but lovemaking is so beautiful. It's come on, for the love of God.
But
Then kissing should be bad because it's gross. But it's
life is changing.
It's just people be more gentle.
I think it shouldn't be hidden from kids, especially nowadays. A lot of it shouldn't be.
But they should teach them.
I think they should teach.
But then, depending on the age group, how much you expose them to.
Yeah, you just have to limit the amount that you expose
That's
them
all
to.
it is. But truth must be shared.
Yes, it must be. And music, I see Christian artists
Right.
that try to do like conscious reggae or soul or R&B, and they're condemned by the church.
I get flagged when I quote Bob Marley.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it because I'm a Jamaican. So
Jamaican, Haitian, American.
yeah, I'm a Jamaican. And I love saying I'm a Jamaican English, but anyway,
Right.
I'm a Jamaican. So Bob Marley's truth, I'm using Bob,
Yes.
is universal. Not his truth, I'm sorry. Bob Marley exposing the universal truth from his music is life, is reality. Now, if I can quote William Shakespeare, and that's what the mental slavery thing does, because Shakespeare talks about Romeo and Juliet, Twelfth Night, Othello, and it's okay to quote Shakespeare. Why is it not okay to quote Beyonce?
Right.
Why is it a problem to quote, I don't want to say Jay-Z, but
Right.
Phil Collins. I gotta stay safe.
Even Jay-Z, because he has some
I'm
conscious
staying
stuff
safe.
that you can.
I'm staying safe with this PDD stuff. I'm staying safe. But why is it wrong to quote them? So it is love is love.
Right.
If I can read William Shakespeare, then why can't I read a novel?
What I think is the Bible talks about literally everything,
It does.
And it's amazing that a book that was written so many years ago talks about stuff that's going on right now. Something as simple as even healthy eating.
Oh man, I was raised on the Adventist, so
right.
that's my.
And I think the healthy eating aspect of it, pastors don't even practice that.
They don't. But I'm gonna say why it exists. For example, Leviticus 11 talks about what's called clean food and unclean food. Strangely, Leviticus is the second book. During the flood, Genesis, the first book, Noah had to separate the clean animals from the unclean animals. So the concept of clean and unclean existed way before. But what's clean, what's unclean, let me explain it, is what's considered to be the cleaners. For example, vultures. Vultures are the cleaners of the air. If there's any dead,
They'll eat it.
they eat it. And crabs or lobsters, they eat the stuff from the sea. And pigs eat the stuff from the land, and other animals.
Right.
So that's why there's a difference between clean and unclean. And it's about health.
Right.
It's literally about health. Scavengers, the fish that have no large fins tend to be the scavengers of the ocean. So you eat fish with scales. When the Bible explains it, a lot of people don't understand why it's there, but it's a health principle. It's nothing complicated.
What I've learned over time of researching this stuff is us as Black people are not meant to eat animals. We are meant to eat plants. We're meant to eat
Why do you
spices.
say
and fruits.
Black?
Because our genetic makeup is different from other races. We are more superior in a lot of ways. We're able to be in the sun longer. We're able to we're stronger. Our cellular makeup, we have way more cells than
Now,
another race.
that's just I love you. I just met you today. I love you. I'm not gonna say we're superior. I'm gonna say we're different. I know we're not gonna disagree. And the reason I'm saying this is the moment we start comparing it that way,
Yeah.
because, for example, Plato wrote a book called The Republic,
Yes.
and he believes the leader should have blue eyes, thin nose, because there's a physical makeup. The moment we go into the physical structure, then if we say we're physically superior, then another group may say, well, we're intellectually superior.
Right.
There's no
Causes a division. Right.
right. We are different. We're different.
Yes.
And which I gotta say this, I'm so sorry. Blacks are not cursed. When Noah got drunk and his son Ham saw him drunk, the Bible never said Ham, who was black, is cursed. It said, cursed be Canaan, the son of Ham.
Right.
Canaan is the land the Israelites occupy after they left Egypt. That's the curse. The Canaanites are all dead.
Right.
That's the curse. We black are not cursed. I have to say this for the
Glad you put
record.
that out there.
I have to say this. I'm so blessed, man. Please.
I think even we have a lot of misconceptions that was passed down to us from slavery, from the white people. Even something as simple as you shouldn't look in the sun. sun gazing should be for us as black people actually.
We shouldn't look in the sun.
Yeah,
Because you know why? That's the same way they raised us to not look at people in the eye.
exactly.
It's the same
Right.
garbage.
You know,
They use religion to enslave us,
Mm-hmm.
and Christianity was used for that.
And that's not admitted by a lot of churches because you won't admit, because I still go in churches and see white Jesus on the altar, and I'm like, I think it's part of being brainwashed.
Why should you even have a picture? Nobody knows how you look like. This is absolute garbage, and made up a story about the handkerchief. Please give me a break. I saw a handkerchief that stayed in those years, and somebody kept it, and
That's
it
crazy.
survived in a freezer.
A man that was jailed and all these things, that nobody kept anything.
Please.
You know?
Please. That's not how Jesus looked like. That's why God is spirit.
Yes, and I think that mentality of white people being the superior people passed down to now, where we're still dealing with mental things from slavery days, and that's one of the things I wanted to touch on too, is therapy and getting mental help. And I think the church doesn't offer enough of that. We talk a lot about the Bible, but we don't talk about, like, the reason why I love T.D. Jakes and I love Mike Todd. These pastors talk about real life, and they apply the Bible to nowadays real life, the things
You
that
should
people
have
are
come to
going
my
through.
church, man. I do that too.
And I
I'm
need
not
to.
getting any preps.
I'm not.
No, that's a joke, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not big on church, but I love to hear real things being talked about, because they talk about helping people through these situations. And we talk about, Mike Todd speaks about struggling with masturbation and addicting.
These are real issues.
Addiction to pornography, and he talks about his son being disabled and these things, that he questioned God. As a pastor, he did question God and say, why me? You know, and like, these thoughts, they think they have these thoughts because you don't say it, that it's not there.
Correct.
You know?
But one of the things that happened with pastors is this image of being invincible, and that's unfortunate. Religious leaders, pastors, priests, imams, they appear to be invincible and they have all wisdom. We are human beings, born in sin, shaped in iniquity.
Right.
The thing that's in my head, I didn't want to say it, but I can't help it. This is authentic truth.
Right.
We still use the bathroom. So if we do, we're not perfect.
Right.
But do we question God? Yes, we do. I do a lot. And I went through a period where now I know what I believe in firmly better than what I was taught in school, what I was told to present to people. I know God, what I'm knowing God personally. Can I know God fully? Absolutely not. But I'm learning God personally. And because of that experience, it's a little different. And I'm not as rigid, more tolerant, more understanding, because we're all trying to figure it out.
Muslims believe that God lives within us. It's a
Doesn't
consciousness.
Jesus say the kingdom is within you?
Right. So they believe in a consciousness that if you're, for instance, if you're a person who meditate or do yoga and stuff like that, and you're still,
Like Hindus or Buddhists.
no, Buddhists believe in the yoga version of it, but I feel like it's the same consciousness.
So now let me give you one. And that's why I said the Bible is the best book. Psalms 1 talk about blessed is the one who meditates on God's law day and night. We need to take time to think.
Be still.
Good grief. We talk so much. I'm paid to talk, but this is a podcast. But you understand what I'm saying. Jesus woke up every morning and spent time alone in prayer and meditation.
We don't do that enough.
We don't. We have to have that moment. The universe is mental.
And I feel like that's
understand
where
this.
all religions are connected in some way. That's what I think.
They all are.
Yes.
They really are. But they don't understand that they are.
I think what divides it is the practices, the way of
The
life.
rituals and the practice.
Yes.
But going back on what you talked earlier about church, mental health, the idea of going to heaven sometimes robs us of the reality of living on earth.
Yes.
If I can't pay my rent, you're telling me about heaven? And here's the other side of it. You're telling me I'm going to walk on streets of gold in heaven, so it's okay to be poor? Tell me, when was the last time somebody was blessed with poverty? Hey, man, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to make you poor. This is absolute garbage. Plus, the whole concept of streets made of gold to
Yeah.
be, I'm gonna have a mansion. It- the dirt in heaven is gold.
Right.
So that's the dirt. So it's not anything special. Gold is the number one metal in the universe. We found out with astronomy, wherever we go, the number one metal in the universe is gold.
Yes.
So streets made of gold doesn't mean it's expensive. It's heaven's dirt.
Yes.
So do what you have to do here. Do it well. Work your butt off. Sweat. Make the best out of your abilities, and get rich.
Rastafarians and Muslims believe that this is our hell and this is our heaven. It's our what we make it. Is this the whatever direction we decide to go with our
I will need to
choices.
come back to talk about the heaven and earth thing because I know it's gonna be a little shaky with all the different Christian views of paradise and hell and Sheol and but you living in this frame right now, make the best of it. God give you life. Do the best with what you have. And the universe doesn't discriminate. God doesn't discriminate. Gravity, for example.
Yes.
Does gravity apply to good people only or to bad people only or to everybody?
Everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So do the best that you can.
That's what I would say too. And I think a person going through certain things that they can't see themselves coming out of, that's their hell to me. A person living
It is present hell.
yes, and a person living at their highest, you meditate, you're working hard, you're doing things in the right way, that's your hell.
That is your paradise.
Yes.
And I can tell you, being in Jamaica, sipping coconut
Yes.
water or pina coladas, in the grill.
But you
That's
know what?
paradise,
You know what was mine?
What was yours?
Bali.
Where?
Bali.
Bali.
Bali was mine.
Oh gosh. I
Bali,
haven't been to Bali yet.
right, so Bali,
Speaking to Negril.
so Bali has this atmosphere, and when you talk to them, they have this atmosphere of they criminalize the wrong way to live.
Oh, I love this. The
So-
French call it la joie de vivre, the joy of living.
Yes, so they don't believe in stealing and none of that stuff.
Oh.
They live
That's
that
where now we
way.
going. That's next year.
I love it. I love it there.
But I'll say this, and this is what we need to learn. We don't need to be at the place to create paradise. When we meditate, when we pray, because it's within us, it's intrinsic coming out.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you this part. Churches should do more for people. Instead of just talking about heaven, people are addicted to drugs.
Yes.
You have people in their families that are suffering. There's domestic abuse within church members that is not addressed. We are the light of the world. Politics.
Yes.
We're watching people following political candidates.
Cult like.
It is cult-like. In America, both parties are cult-like. And the church has a mission to bring light and truth. I think we've failed. Some denominations do more. I happened to went to go to Honduras earlier this month with a group called Food for the Poor.
Yes.
It's a Catholic institution, by the way. And amazing, life-changing. But it should be everywhere. True religion is to take care of the hungry, the needy, the orphans, the widows. If we are a Christian nation, should we have homeless people?
I think we're flowing.
And that's the rubbish.
We're literally flowing. Everything you're saying is just flowing into the next thing because
I'm so sorry.
no, yeah, that's
But that's
perfect.
the truth.
That's perfect.
Because that's what it should be. You can't believe in a loving God and you're not showing it and you're not displaying affection for people in need. And people are suffering. And healthcare shouldn't be, and I'm not giving a democratic idea or anything about Obamacare or Affordable Care.
Right.
That's not it at all. It's about rights of human beings.
Yes.
Education, rights of human beings.
That's just so expensive.
Why is it so expensive? You know what's so crazy? Daycare is expensive.
Yes.
In public school,
Daycare is super
I mean, you
expensive.
can't start and you can't go up. This is so messed up. Our tax dollars should go into helping us to be better people.
And I think that is where we're going to now, which is church offerings. This is the next next one we're gonna touch on. So when I was growing up, right, it was so confusing and baffling to me, man, when they were talking about when you give money in church, it's going to God. And I'm like, this is not making sense.
Correct.
How are you telling me that you're when you give offering, you're giving it to God? You know,
Yeah.
you should just be honest. The church needs things. You have to pay yourself as a pastor because it's a job. You have to prepare. You have to plan. You have to strategize. There's people that clean the church. These people need to get paid for their time. There's nothing wrong with being straightforward about that.
So you touched on a very touchy, interesting point. So let me go back onto what Old Testament, New Testament, right? So Old Testament, the Levites were in charge of worship, and they couldn't own land. Let me say this again: they couldn't own land, but they were in charge of worship. So all their jobs was to be there for worship and church and sanctuary and all that. So now, tithing was food. It wasn't money.
Right.
So when they sell their product, if the temple was far, they would have to sell their product, come with the money. When they get close to the temple, purchase the food so that they could partake, keyword,
Yes.
with the Levites. So tithing and the offering was something that was shared between the people and the Levites. In the New Testament, the agricultural system is gone. We got into the monetary system where we use more money. Paul, if you notice in the New Testament, the expression of tithing is not mentioned much,
Right.
but the principle remains in the church as a true principle. So what is to be done is that the 10% goes to the Levites, the modern Levites.
Yes.
But it shouldn't be all of it, because there should be a standard, in my opinion, as to how much they get paid. Why is it one gets $65,000 a year or $45,000 a year? Another one can have enough to purchase a plane for $65 million.
Right.
It doesn't
Match.
work out. It
Yeah.
doesn't match. And your members are still suffering. Doesn't make sense. The offering, as you say, should take care of the building, the property. But the reason the money exists is to take care of people.
The community.
To partake. Partake. So mental health, you talked about it. A lot of people have issues. Did you know, by the way, out of every 10 human beings, one is a narcissist or a psychopath or a sociopath?
Yes.
We've got cuckoos everywhere, cray-crays everywhere. So church should be that sanctuary, that hospital where people can find help.
Yeah. So the therapist, there should be therapists available.
Well, my training involved that, and that's what I love about the Seventh-day Adventist Church pastor training, because it involved philosophy, it involved accounting, it involved theology itself, it involves sociology, it involves a lot of psychology and counseling,
which is
needed, because being a pastor, you are a community leader.
Yes. And for pastors, they have a lot of cult-like following where people believe in them so much, like they're really anointed. Because, like I said, a person like T.D. Jakes and Mike Todd, they're really special people. You know, they get an anointing that a lot.
Yeah,
of
they
people
do.
have.
And what's tough, if they make a mistake, then we forget every good thing they've done.
I would never do that. I think people nowadays they find every reason to condemn you.
No way.
Before we started, we were talking about the cult-like thing where people would blindly follow. You said sports, you said religion, and you said one more thing:
Sports, religion, and politics. These
right?
are the
We see now where the Trump supporters are literally a cult, because you cannot tell me that man has any common sense. And then sports, where a lot of people believe in their sports teams so much that they can do no wrong. And then you have religion now, where we see people follow anything pastor says and not question anything.
You said now they've been doing it for years, man.
Yes, they don't
They've been
question
dying
anything.
for their beliefs.
So this quote that you were talking about.
So now,
Yes.
my friend, I gotta give credit to my friend, Antoine Dumas, attorney Antoine Dumas, pastor. And
We're gonna have him on, by the way.
He's
Both of them
coming.
on this shit.
Oh gosh, it's gonna be chaos. But this is he shared it with me. He read it somewhere, so I got a quote that I got it from him. People will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. And that
profound.
is so profound, and that's politics, that's sports, that's religion, that's raising educated fools.
Yes, yes.
Because the education system somewhat does some of that. That's not helping people to think freely.
Yes.
Oh gosh, that's a lot.
It prevents people from seeking out truth a lot.
And that's what systems do.
Yes.
Systems keep us boxed.
Yeah, one of the things that I feel like is a not a misconception, but more like a lot of misinformation in church about relationships, dating, marriage, sex. I think we see where in church they say no sex before marriage, and you have people dating for a month and decide now we're gonna get married, or 2 months and now we're gonna get married because they want to get to the sex part because we can't wait. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's not healthy. My personal opinion before you go.
Let me hear yours.
My personal opinion is that's the only thing in the Bible that I question so much, because
Is it because you're a man?
not only because I'm a man, because we've seen where in relationships you date somebody. That's one part of it that I feel like in a lot of relationships, if you don't satisfy a person's sexual appetite, it's not gonna survive. That's what I think, and I feel like that's a part of dating. That's a part of getting to know somebody. And if I marry you and
That's when you discover
that's when you discover that now it's not gonna survive.
What? That's how you are? No, I'm leaving. I'm kidding.
But that's what it's true.
Right.
You would discover that,
Right.
hey, you like a swing off the fan. No, I don't like that. That's too much.
Right.
Now I'm leaving. You know, you went through childhood trauma where you was raped or deal with it a certain way. I didn't get to realize that until we got to the sex part of it.
Grief.
So I feel like that part of it.
I like the song Marvin Gaye, "Open Up and Let Me In" wouldn't work because of the trauma.
Yes. So
I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, there's trauma. There's trauma. I've noticed that women, you cannot choke them in sex because they've been choked while they were raped while they were younger. There's women you can't spank because of that. There's women you can't pull their hair because of that. There's women you can't talk to a certain way because of their past traumas, and you won't find it out until you get to
Now,
the sexual
Stretch,
part of it.
here's a shocker. Sexual abuse with minors is very common.
Yes, it is.
So in terms of trauma that a lot of people have experienced, it is so prevalent. Now you mentioned dating and
The sex
and,
before
and I'm gonna
marriage
say
thing.
that about
Yeah.
the sex before marriage thing. Sex before marriage is not the only thing that is bad, tough. Is the fact that people are not communicating and self-disclosing. So there's a lot we don't know, and that's the whole purpose of dating. Unfortunately, so many people have gotten married, like you say, because of this religious stigma that you can't have sex, and in order to have sex, I'm gonna get married. So the motive for marriage is literally horniness. It's not because you know the person.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not because we understand one another. We are at a certain level. At the end of it all, let's say people who are married turn to be 90, then you can't have sex anymore. What is gonna keep you? You gotta be able to intellectually be compatible.
Yes.
So church should have these dating coaching sessions, not just for people who are dating, but even before they date, from the moment they're teenagers. Our hormones don't wait.
I don't.
I know somebody who is severely autistic, doesn't really watch movies, discovered masturbation.
Right.
Hormones don't wait. So the idea of shielding, hiding reality is not a good thing. Now, as a religious leader, I will not say you gotta have sex with sex before marriage. I gotta uphold the religious leader thing. But you gotta at least know
Ask
what
the right
you're
questions.
getting. Not just ask. You gotta know where you're going.
I think so.
I
too.
mean, imagine a girl who never felt an erection from a boyfriend. What if he doesn't have a penis? I mean, I know as a pastor, I know of a, gotta be careful, can't tell people stories. But there are stories of hermaphrodites getting married under the umbrella of church and no sex before marriage. that disaster happened. I'm not advocating sex before marriage. I'm not commenting on that
We're
yet.
just speaking on factual.
But
things.
you gotta know where you're going. And then how do you know the soft points, the tickling sex?
Yeah.
You gotta know the turn on points. You gotta, there's certain things you
Let
gotta
me say it
know.
for you. Let me say it for you.
You gotta date, and we gotta come out of that shell, for crying out loud.
All right.
And Songs of Solomon, Bible. Solomon talked about the woman's breast. That was before the marriage.
Yes.
I'm just saying, Bible.
All right. So
I'm just saying, Bible.
yes, that is what I'm saying. I feel like we take it too literal when we're talking about even that topic of sex before marriage, because we see like the pastor that came on when we talk about relationships, he was like, why do when Christian people get into relationships or get married, is that they get more boring? They don't want to travel. They don't want to go places.
Gosh, that's terrible. What kind of Christianity is that? I don't want to be in it.
There's people that really, really go home.
But you know, the Puritans did this to Christianity. Again, that's the Anglo-Saxon madness. Loving God and loving someone is good grief. I was playing Lauryn Hill. Good grief. What's the song I was playing the other day? But the song from Lauryn Hill about it escapes me because this is a religious thing.
Right.
Lauryn Hill, it is part of life. But when I see you, how I feel. Okay,
Yeah.
Phil Collins. I was playing Phil Collins also the other day. Give me just one more night.
You're right.
You know, and all night long, Lionel Richie. You know, I mean, I'm talking about the older songs,
Right.
but there are newer songs like that too. But the older songs carry the, you know,
Yeah, wait.
the
A
rhythm,
different type
the
of
rhythm
yes.
for the romance.
Yes, it's different.
But you know, so you can't be married and you're a Christian and you're boring. If God is love, for crying out loud, you should be doing it like rabbits. I'm just saying.
So what is your opinion on divorce? Because a lot of churches don't even believe in that.
The first time I read the word divorce was in the Bible.
Oh yeah.
It's not a sin. Originally in the Old Testament, God said, you know, Moses, if you don't like your wife, give her a letter of divorce. Of course, it was a patriarchal society, contextually.
Right.
The New Testament, because of the hardness of your heart, try to reconcile. Again, that's the whole idea of love. If you can't reconcile, people sometimes, if you marry for the wrong motive, or you're living with the devil incarnated in your house, or an abuser. I'm not talking even about the adultery section, because people stress the adultery section. Somebody who's beating you, somebody who's abusing you mentally, emotionally. How do you live under the same roof with that person?
That's
I
a
mean, for
good
crying
question.
out loud.
Yeah.
I'm saying run, find peace, because you shouldn't live somewhere where you're not
Happy.
being happy. Love. I read this from a book called The Road Less Traveled. By the way, people, please read as much as you can.
Yes.
Um,
We're gonna do that. The last thing we're gonna do is suggest some books. The last thing.
The Road Less Traveled is one of the books I recommend by M. Peck Scott. Love is the will to extend myself for the purpose of your fulfillment.
Yes.
I'm like, when I read this, I'm like, that is not romantic at all. But then love is also a principle.
Yes.
So if I love you, it means I'm giving myself to you so that you can be a better person. And when you love me, you're extending yourself to me
Yes.
so that I can be a better man. What better? How am I going to be boring with that person
That's
with
true.
me? Dude, we're going to Bali. That's how you go to Bali. You go to Santorini. You know, you
that's
go to Negril. You go to, in your bedroom, you turn on the light and you turn the lights down low.
Right.
Lauryn Hill again.
One thing that we talk about, I learned this from watching Dr. Louis Farrakhan. I listen to him a lot.
Brilliant man, by the way.
Yes, very brilliant. He talks about the man being the leader, but also being educated, being the man with the knowledge in order to lead. Because you can't lead if you don't know anything. You're leading me astray. You're leading me nowhere.
Oh, bad.
So I feel like, hold on, before we go there,
Stretch.
Before we go there.
You're going somewhere that you're getting me
before we go there,
hyped up. Let me
before we go
get
there,
some tea.
like that's gonna be the last thing we touch on. Before we go there, young people in church. Why do you think a lot of young people are turning away from church?
Irrelevance.
Okay.
It's becoming irrelevant. It's church is not adapting. I I give you an example, country music. Some people love country music. Beyonce did a country music album. But not everybody culturally in this time is listening to country music. Adapt to the time. Principles don't change. Methodologies change. You can't be doing the same thing you were doing 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and you want to do the exact same thing.
Right.
We can't. Look at what we're doing now. Podcasts. When were we going to be? If we didn't have COVID, the internet started this avenue.
Right.
COVID made it faster. But prior to that, people had to go to their own radio station or TV station. These things didn't exist. So now anybody can try and look at it. Student of learning, it's accessible. Churches need to also do the same thing. It can't just be limited to the four walls and the only days that you come in.
Right.
I think that's terrible. And then bad concept. Why is a church closed?
Always.
If you're in need of church, if you're in need of prayer, it needs to be open. I think the Catholic Church has done great doing that. It needs to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
You know, if I'm being honest, I asked a few pastors to come on and they wanted to charge me to come on here.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, I'm being completely honest with you.
This
How much do we pay to
you know what they call, right? Wolves with sheep's clothing. I'm sorry, I'm not being judgmental.
But it's true.
But you can't, please, for the love of God. I know it's your job. You get paid per hour. Then preach the word. But if you get to share Jesus, the truth, at least do it from the goodness of your heart.
Yes, that's what I think. And let's go to the sharing of the goodness of the heart. Like I said, you just flow with everything that we have. It's like you visioned it. Like we're gonna talk about this next.
I have a passion for people and love and life.
You have. We'll give you your props before we end. You have.
Let's not do that now. We're gonna get me shy and then I won't talk. Stretch, let me give you one because we talk about racism. We brushed it off. Why is the black population in America so far? We don't have it. Recently, not exceeding 15%. Why is the male population mostly incarcerated? You mentioned Louis Farrakhan, and I wanted to bring that because systemic racism, even though people don't want to talk about it, but it's real. Blacks' mortgage rates are higher. Our loan rates are higher. It's not because of our credit score.
No.
We don't get paid enough or equally with our other counterparts.
Right.
So we are at a disadvantage from the very beginning, and yet we get higher fees. So it takes a lot for us to break out of.
Right. And we start from behind.
And we're starting from behind.
Yes.
Our schools in our neighborhoods do not teach at the same level at the schools in the better neighborhoods. So I encourage my minority people, be your own boss, be an entrepreneur, because even if you work somewhere, have the passion to be your own boss so that you can be free, you can break free from that bondage of a salary. But going further with this part. So Farrakhan talked about black men, a leader should be educated and a man should be.
Yes.
If you ignore it, you can't be a leader. But if a system puts us in jail, how do we get to lead our families? Then we raise children without dads. And a woman raising boys, I kudos to the ladies, single women. I respect you. I honor you. I love you. But it's incomplete.
Yes,
you can't do it fully by yourself.
Same thing with the other way around.
Man, and the other way around as a man. How does a man explain to a daughter that when she's reaching puberty about a period? You don't know anything about that. So it takes two to make it work. So keeping the families together, guys, stop going around.
Yes. That's the root.
When you have a family, work with your family, because you're not just doing it for you, you're raising generations and you're affecting people down the line. So as a man, it's a responsibility to be informed and educated. You have to be. How can you lead if you're not informed and educated? And right now, knowledge is so accessible. Read, for the love of God, read. Many of you don't love to read. Please read. Knowledge is power. And if you don't like to read, you and I were talking about it because it takes time to read. Do audiobooks. I won't call a company's name to make it easy, but do audiobooks. Some of them are free.
Very.
Listen to it. Just please, instead of betting on sport, who's gonna win the Super Bowl? That's absolute garbage.
But you can't complain if it's free or not, and then you're spending money on other things.
Thank you.
You know,
and then you go waste your time in some time. The greatest commodity is
Yes.
called time.
Yes.
What do you do with yours? If it's not progressive, then you are regressing.
Yes.
So please,
So,
man.
so as you said that, now we're gonna get into recommending some books.
Yes.
The first book I asked you about when you came in was The 48 Laws of Power.
48 Laws of Power by Green. I forgot his first name.
Yes.
Something Green. He has 48 Laws of Power. He has another book called Mastery. I think I recommend Mastery for people to read.
Yes.
I mentioned The Road Less Traveled.
Napoleon Hill's
Napoleon
books.
Hill, Think and Grow Rich, Interview with the Devil.
Interview of the Devil is what I'm reading now.
Yeah, Think and Grow Rich is a classic.
Yes.
Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, and Money Master the Game. Please, Money Master the Game. Going back on Bible and church. Do you know the number one topic in the Bible?
No.
Money.
Money.
Not love, not salvation, not baptism, not faith.
Who wrote The Richest Man in Babylon? That was one of the books I was
That's a
told
book I
to
would
read.
recommend also.
Yeah.
I forgot the name. That's you want to learn budgeting, The Richest Man in Babylon. You got to read that book. Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Seagull.
Gosh, you need to read that book. Who Moved My Cubes? Another book that is important to read.
Yes.
The Kabbalion. Antoine, I know you
That's
love
the one
this.
you just told me about.
Just
yeah.
told you. Read the Kabbalion. Religious people, find the Ethiopian Bible.
Okay.
Find the Ethiopian Bible.
Okay.
I can't stress this enough. Do not be limited. Please do not limit your exposure to knowledge. I know time is moving.
No.
What does it we say again? What is it? Joseph Murphy, The Power of the Subconscious Mind.
Yes.
Oh,
that
good
is
Lord.
I heard that is one of the most
Oh,
powerful
good
books.
Lord, read this book because you you gotta read.
Yes.
Do audiobooks, please do audiobooks. The Bible again, I recommend that book every single day. It's one of the most amazing books. Read Proverbs. My favorite book in the Bible, Ecclesiastes. Read Ecclesiastes. I recommend Ecclesiastes
Yes.
a lot. Yeah.
I mean, I was,
On love and relationships.
yeah. I feel
His needs, her needs. Oh gosh, a very good friend of mine recommended this book. His needs, her needs. It's an amazing book for people to understand this. Let me just give you a little bit that I started doing audio with it. Men love sex.
right. That's one.
Women love the connection and belongingness, depending on the love language, right? So give your men sex. A lot of you women think you're doing a man a favor. Animals have sex. People make love.
Yeah.
We both, when we
Yes.
orgasm, we both get to the seventh heaven. So you're not giving the man anything.
Right.
So just
Change the perspective.
I know. So you're not like, I'm gonna let you. No, you're not letting anybody do jack. You're getting pleasure out of it too.
Right.
So his needs are her needs. So the more a man is sexually satisfied, the more he can be affectionate. And guys, learn to be affectionate with your woman. Know her love language and treat her like a queen. You
Yes.
treat her like a queen, she'll give you an eyeball. You treat him like a queen, women, he'll kiss your toes.
Man, we have to do this again. I don't care what you say. I'm gonna have you
Okay.
back. If I have to pay you,
Oh
come
gosh, come on. You're chipping this.
I must give you your props. You're one of the best guests
Oh,
that I've had.
now you humbled me.
The conversation flowed so much tonight. We could go another hour without even
Is it
thinking.
because I talk too much? I'm sorry.
No, we wouldn't even call it. It's more like
We're sharing.
sharing, you know. And you've
Sorry, Neville Goddard. I forgot this. I gotta give you Neville Goddard as an author. And gosh, if you can do podcasts, also do Stretch, do Neville Goddard, do Nero, on and do Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn is my
Oh
favorite.
gosh, Jim Rohn, and
my
a
favorite.
great religious leader to read and watch. Miles Monroe.
Miles Monroe is
About
great
the
too. He's
kingdom of
Bahamian,
God.
right?
He's unfortunately passed away, but
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of meeting him in
Really?
Jamaica. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Bahamian, I think. Right?
Bahamian guy.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Really,
Oh my goodness.
brilliant.
Miles Monroe, amazing to understand the
Yes.
whole concept of the kingdom of God and
Yes,
understand.
he's so good.
Then religion is no longer important.
Yes.
Once you understand it's
Miles Monroe is different.
I think yeah.
TD Jakes is one of them. And like I said,
I haven't read any book from Jakes. I've read from Maxwell on leadership.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say this one. I'm on this podcast. because I believe in the mission of being student of life.
Yes.
And I'm going to ask you guys, he didn't tell me to say it, and I'm not getting paid, but share this link with as many people as you can, because this is important. Subscribe to it, share it, because we are students of life.
Yes.
We have saved you time and money from reading certain books based on the knowledge that we have acquired in time. We're sharing it with you, and it's not biased.
Yes.
It's objective. We do have our own biases as people, but we try to be as objective as possible. So share this podcast, subscribe to it, because Stretch, I want to come back, and I congratulate you for doing this. This is amazing.
You have to come back. And normally you don't give me this much extra time, but like I said, like we know the conversation is great.
Thank you. But this is amazing. I want to congratulate you for doing this. As young, I don't want to say it, but reality of America. But as young black men, it's good that we are sharing things to help people be better.
Yes.
There is a pleasure of life. We gotta neglect it because we gotta have fun. But there's also the learning curve of life.
Yes.
And that's important.
And we don't talk about learning as a fun thing also.
It is fun.
I feel like a lot of people don't understand that learning can be fun. It
is fun. I'm not a nerd. It's fun it's fun to know. It's fun to read. It's fun to learn.
Yes.
Dude, I'm proud of you, man.
Appreciate it.
You're gonna be on my phone as one of my good buddies.
Yes. Thanks again for coming through. I appreciate it so much. I like this conversation has to happen again with your friend too today.
Yes, Antoine Dumas.
Yes.
And I have my other friend, Luima, my other brother.
Yes.
We are three brothers.
We're gonna have you guys.
So
come
Lucian,
back for sure.
Lucian is not in town yet, but he's not in town now. But come back. There's so many others, and I have a few pastors that I want you to talk to and pick their brains.
And shout out to Carell for making this happen.
Carell, my friend of so many years, thank you.
Thank you. And peeps, that is another amazing episode of the Student to Life podcast. This is where learning and unlearning has no limits. So, like he said before, make sure you like, you share, you subscribe, you comment, like everything. We need the engagement, and we will see you again next time. Big shout out to All Dolled Up Salon for having us each and every week just to do this, and Leo, our director, our camera guy, and King Raj, our picture and media guy also.
And I gotta say this one, sac passe.
Navule. Bless up.